Hello kitties, quells, flows, witty shitties got the city open, boast the comatose flows, fucker try rhyming right. You ain't half as tight as the last sacrifice. Cats fight with Lazarus to bring this mic back to life. Ounces pound of downtown brown. My stereotypes around sound. Do I have to try to
Spikesmth here, chilling. So I came across this video by HowTheWorldWorks. Now, I'm not a fan of him at all. He's really annoying to me. But he did a critique of a video about cap and trade, calling it indoctrination of the children because it was being shown in these schools. So I want to put in my 2 cents. So here we go.
It's a specious argument that's being taught to young kids, and they don't have a counter-argument. And the worst thing about it is the teachers think that they're doing something good for society by showing it to kids. I'm sorry, it's just factually inaccurate.
Alright, the video does have some factual errors, but if that's the case, why do you need to use the dishonest creationist tactics? Teach the other side, teach the controversy. I'm watching you.
We have less than 4% of our original forest left.
Okay, that quote that she just gave is a blatant falsehood and should disqualify this video from being shown in classrooms throughout America because it's patently not true.
Doran says 95% of forests have been logged, but many have grown back.
Now this is fairly trivial, okay? You're arguing over 1%, and she did say original forests. So, I mean, yeah, there's shit growing back, but that was after it had already been completely destroyed. It shouldn't have happened in the first place.
After all, more than 50% of our federal tax money is now going to the military.
The rebuttal video claims military spending is 20% of our budget, confirmed by the White House Office of Management and Budget.
Again, they should have used the correct number, but when you consider that the U.S. accounts for more than 50% of global defense spending, again, it's, you know, so what?
In fact, the leading solution, known as cap and trade or emissions trading, is actually a huge problem.
Exactly, that's what I've been saying all along, and in fact, let's see what else I agree with in this video. First of all, she does an amazing job describing exactly what cap and trade is and how it works. She also does a phenomenal job in explaining why it's a scam, why people can cheat the system, and why it hasn't worked in the past.
Now this is just straight dishonesty. Now check this out, check this out. It has worked in the past. The Clean Air Act of 1990 set up a cap and trade program for sulfur dioxide because acid rain was a problem. So on the graph you can see the projected cost was quite high. You know, $400 to $500 per ton of sulfur dioxide, but the actual cost was way below that, half of that or less. And if you check the emissions, they decline, you know, fairly steadily, a downward trend for the long term. So it does work. Now, some things to consider about this sulfur dioxide permit trading. So the first is the alternative cost that we're going to bear from having to live with acid rain and the damage that that causes. So, you know, which one's more worth it? Pay a little bit more for your energy or have to, you know, deal with acid rain and the environmental destruction that does? Which leads to the next one, is a monetary valuation of our environmental assets, right? Because right now, I mean, what is a forest worth? There's sort of ways to measure it, but we don't account for just the goodness that nature is, that we all value it for if you happen to like nature. And screw off if you don't.
And oh yeah, these guys take their fee as they broker this multi-trillion-dollar carbon market.
I admit there are administrative flaws as well in the cap and trade system, but I don't see why that can't be addressed. And I find it strange that Mr. Lee Dorn, who I take it as a market solution, free market for everything kind of guy, would agree with this statement that the market is not the right solution here.
In Europe, they tried a cap and giveaway system. The price of permits bounced around like crazy, energy costs jumped for consumers, and guess what? Carbon emissions actually went up.
2 misleading facts about this is that while the overall emissions of Europe may have gone up, but actually at least half of the countries are on track to have, you know, reach their abatement targets. But that's the problem of what we call carbon leakage. So they basically outsource their pollution to a nearby, you know, neighboring country. The other major problem with that is the giveaway part. All the real literature suggests that an auction system is the most effective way. But the bottom line is that a real cost of pollution needs to be allocated to polluters.
Her cap and trade video, at least when she's talking about what cap and trade does, is pretty good.
In fact, even the economists who invented the cap-and-trade system to deal with simpler problems like fertilizer pollution and sulfur dioxide,
Remember that sulfur dioxide cap-and-trade worked.
they say cap-and-trade will never work for climate change.
Consider this. Cap-and-trade is one tool of many that we will need to, save the planet, basically. And a cap-and-trade system needs to be directed at specific industries and tailored for the needs. You couldn't just have a blanket carbon trade system where all sources of carbon are tradable. No, that doesn't make sense at all. But let's think rationally about it. Don't just call conspiracy on everything.
She even explains how people like Al Gore are going to make billions of dollars on this total racket.
Like operators of a polluting factory can claim they were planning to expand 200%, but reduce the plans to expand only 100%. For that meaningless claim, they get offset permits. Permits that they can sell to someone else to make more pollution. That is so stupid. The list of scams go on and on.
This is why we need a strong regulatory body for oversight so that people can't scam the system like this. And one way or another, pollution will cost you.
And she also takes my position on subsidies. Well, at least for oil companies.
What? We shouldn't be subsidizing fossil fuels at all.
Hey, we agree, kind of. I'm against almost all subsidies, except for the people with the lowest incomes who are always the most negatively affected by basically everything. So, give them some temporary assistance to reduce the barriers for their adaptation to the new circumstances.
Her actual solutions to this quote-unquote problem essentially lead to economic destruction over nothing. Oh gosh, now we're going to go into global warming hysteria.
If advocating taking decisive actions now rather than later is hysteria to you, so be it.
So how are we going to reduce carbon 80% and not go back to living like Little House on the Prairie?
You can't. You simply can't.
Come on, man, you're a smart guy. This is totally wrong. You're thinking short run. I'm thinking long run. We have substitution and innovation. And it's happening at breakneck speed. Technology, man.
Sadly, in order to have this quote-unquote clean energy economy, it essentially means subsidies. It's a Ponzi scheme.
How is it a Ponzi scheme, man? A Ponzi scheme is all about profit moving up the chain. This is about reducing emissions and extracting all the savings we can out of greenifying our economy. Consider this, all the wars that we're involved in over resources, energy resources in the Middle East. Billions of dollars saved right there. Plus all the oil that we import, billions more dollars saved there. So, whatever, dude.
Or share it with those most harmed by climate change. Some people call this paying our ecological debt.
You know what I call it? Wealth redistribution, also known as socialism.
Go socialism. You do not have the right to destroy the world for everyone else. And if you want to, you gotta pay your share.
Since we in the richest countries released the most carbon for centuries and lived a pretty comfy lifestyle in the process, don't we have a responsibility to help those most harmed? It's like we had a big party, didn't invite our neighbors, and then stuck them with the cleanup bill. It's just not cool.
That's a great analogy, and that isn't cool. Now watch how he tries to dodge the question and just attribute American prosperity to limited government ideology. Doesn't really follow for me, and it's, again, dishonest.
We became the wealthiest nation in the history of the world because we were a free nation and we had limited government.
Did you know that in the next century, because of the changing climate, whole island nations could end up underwater?
Yes, and islands will emerge from the water too. It's part of the natural cycle of the planet.
Okay, Hotshot, we have a pretty good idea of what low-lying lands are going to be affected by sea level rise. Can you predict where the next islands are going to pop up so we can start planning on colonizing them? Because until then, no.
We don't need to let these guys design the solution. We, us, our governments, we can make laws and do it ourselves.
See, it's always a big government solution for all of our problems.
Well, she's wrong in assuming that people actually have power over our government, and you're wrong by assuming that big government is the bad guy automatically all the time. Because clearly, markets fail sometimes, so they need some sort of body to regulate it, to assure consumer safety, and these types of things. All right, the market doesn't always clean up after itself so nicely as you fundamentalists like to think.
So relax, the world's not ending from a few tenths of a degree.
No, the world is not ending, but we should be thinking about what we can project fairly reliably will be temperature rises in the future, as well as a re-equilibrialization of weather patterns to something that we are not currently optimized for, and that's going to cost money. So if we can mitigate the carbon, perhaps we can slow down the effects of this, and we can buy ourselves some time to adapt. Anyway, How the World Works is dishonest and a smarmy little weasel, but, you know, he had some valid points, but don't ever take him too seriously. He doesn't know shit. Hail science.